Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again today with another video, going over day 2 of NBA free agency. Once again, like the last few videos, I'm still in Orlando, Florida, so not at my usual setup, so sorry I'm in a hotel room, but as always, show keeps going, so day 2 of free agency in the books. Not quite as crazy as day 1 of free agency, but that's just by virtue of the fact that pretty much every single free agent signed yesterday, so there just weren't enough guys to sign on day 2 of free agency to quite equal what we saw yesterday, but there still was some craziness to be had, specifically with the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers, who have geared up big time to try and make a run after being a year removed from winning the NBA title, trying to make a run, go back to grabbing their title, bringing it back to Los Angeles, and I can't say that they don't have a good shot. So we're going to go through every single team. We'll talk about the signings that they made today. We're going to go in kind of alphabetical order. There are some teams that really didn't make any moves, so there's not much to say about them. For example, the Atlanta Hawks, nothing from them. Celtics really haven't done anything either. A team trying to compete with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Brooklyn Nets, bringing in Patty Mills, which I think is a really good signing for them. He's an underrated player, gives them a backup point guard now that Dinwiddie is gone to Washington. Obviously, didn't play this past season, but they were hoping he would come back and join them for the upcoming title run, hopefully for them. But instead, it's going to be Patty Mills, and he's a great shooter. He's going to get a lot of wide open looks because Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden are on his team. The Nets are going to be scary, and this team is really good, bringing back important pieces in Blake Griffin and Bruce Brown with the core three guys alongside Patty Mills and a guy like James Johnson that can be a defensive enforcer for them. This team's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and they're going to be really scary. Easily the favorites at this moment, I would think, to come out of the Eastern Conference, or at least Vegas is probably going to give them the best odds. Obviously, you've got your Milwaukee Bucks, defending NBA champions. You've got your Sixers, who are the 1 seed this past year, and the Miami Heat, who are really gearing up to kind of try and make that push back, as well as, I guess, I'm not going to say the Bulls are a title contending team, but they got way better today, making a big move, picking up DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs in a sign-and trade, which was a possibility that we saw coming, but not quite like this, because a lot of people thought this sign-and trade was going to include Lauri Markkanen, and it didn't. He's still kind of just out there. There have been no moves, no rumors about where he's going to go. No team has offered him a contract in restricted free agency, so maybe he does end up back on the Bulls. But the sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan was the Bulls sent Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu, a protected first-round pick, and 2 protected second-round picks for DeMar DeRozan, who they immediately signed to an $85 million contract. Big pickups for the San Antonio Spurs in those draft picks. Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu are decent pieces. Thad Young is a guy that I could see getting flipped around the trade deadline because I don't expect the Spurs to be competitive. I really don't know if the Spurs think they're going to be competitive because they aren't going to be. So he's the guy I could see getting flipped. And if Al-Farouq Aminu is able to get some minutes and prove that he still has value in the NBA after dealing with a lot of injuries the past few seasons, then maybe they get something for him too. So, decent deal for both sides. A lot of people are giving the Bulls crap for committing a lot of money to this team, and I don't see why, because even though they might not quite be a title contender at the moment, who's to say that maybe like Zach LaVine or Patrick Williams develop in a big way? Maybe they bring back Lauri Markkanen and he turns into a stud, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of really good pieces surrounding a star-level guy, and you suddenly, a couple things go your way, a couple injuries, or just a couple teams kind of fall apart at the wrong time, you're making a run. And for a Bulls team that's been out of the playoffs for the past couple seasons, why wouldn't they add pieces to try and make a run? Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic is what I expect their starting lineup to be, with Alex Caruso, Kobe White coming off the bench. This Bulls team is going to be really good and really fun. I'm excited to watch them play. Shout out to Bulls fans. I know this was a big day for y'all. I have a lot of Bulls friends. I'm in a Bulls group chat on Twitter, so shout out to those guys because this is a really cool moment for y'all. It's cool to see the Chicago Bulls good again because it's kind of been a little bit. So a lot of people are going to give them crap for giving DeMar DeRozan money, for trying to commit to a team that doesn't quite look like the title contender that most teams want to be before they commit a lot of money to it. But sometimes you just want to be good. And like I said, who knows? Maybe you get a couple breaks your way and all of a sudden you're NBA champions or coming out of the Eastern Conference. Who knows? Who knows in today's NBA? We just saw some insane couple last seasons with COVID and everything. You never know what's going to happen in the NBA, so why not try and build a good team, entertain the fans, and give them something to watch night in and night out? That's my thought on it. Moving on from that, A lot of these teams made signings yesterday. The Golden State Warriors made a signing today, Nemanja Bjelica, be a good shooter for them, but probably much more importantly for them is that Steph Curry signed a 4-year, $215 million contract extension with the Golden State Warriors, a team that is now going to be paying him $60 million at the end of his contract. And the fact that a guy is going to be making $60 million in a single NBA season is kind of insane. But if any player deserves it, it's probably Steph Curry. At least he's one of a few. Steph's ridiculous. Makes sense to give him this contract extension. Good for him. I don't want to see Curry on any other team than the Warriors. I hope he's a lifer there, and it's cool to see that both sides were able to come to an agreement. Steph's ridiculous. He deserved the money. Other than that, probably the biggest team of the day easily was the Los Angeles Lakers. Yesterday, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore. Pretty good pieces, adding some shooters around Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. In Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, and Trevor Ariza, adding a good backup big in Dwight Howard, who was gone from them for a season with the Sixers, now returning to Los Angeles for the third time in his career. So it was a good day for them yesterday. And if that was probably the peak of their moves, I would have said that's pretty solid. Instead, what they did was they brought in Carmelo Anthony, who I know is very old. You're going to notice a theme, at least with those guys that I mentioned beforehand, and Carmelo Anthony. A lot of these guys they're signing are old, and I really don't think that's that big of a deal. Melo is going to be fun on this team. All he has to do is catch and shoot the ball. He doesn't have to do anything else. You've got Russ and LeBron, who are both probably going to average over double-digit assists. You have Anthony Davis, who can get you the ball. All you've got to do is hit open shots, and you can be effective, which makes sense why they would also add Malik Monk, which is a signing I didn't see coming because he was a guy I thought could get a payday. He just had the best season of his career, a guy that was a more highly touted pick, ended up not shining in his first couple seasons, finally broke out last year having a really good season for the Hornets. They renounced his rights because they've just got a lot of guards between Rozier, not Graham anymore, but at one point they had Graham, LaMelo Ball, James Bouknight. They've just got too many guards on that roster, so it makes sense to let Malik Monk walk, and I thought he was going to go get paid. Instead, 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Prove it, show your worth in your role. Makes sense to me. Then adding Kendrick Nunn, who the Heat rescinded his qualifying offer after they made all of these crazy moves themselves. So decided they don't really need Kendrick Nunn. So instead, signs with their rival from the 2020 finals in the Los Angeles Lakers. A solid player. All he's got to do is hit shots. That's all these guys have to do, which also applies to Talen-Horton Tucker, who got a 3-year, $32 million deal, easily the youngest guy out of this free agency pool. Good for THT, got his bag, and I don't think that's too crazy for the Lakers to pay him if he's a guy that you see being a big producer in the coming seasons, like I think they do. Only about $10 million a year, and you're way over the cap anyway, so why not give him the money? And all of a sudden, the Los Angeles Lakers look really, really scary. Not that they didn't last season, but this team is crazy because not only do they have a third star in Russell Westbrook next to LeBron and Anthony Davis, but they have a bunch of players that really complement those players well. Guys that can hit threes: Malik Monk, Melo, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, Kendrick Nunn, THT if he can build that up. Dwight Howard, a good backup big. THT's a good solid wing. They've got so much talent on this roster that it's going to be really tough to see most teams beating them. So, what's in the way stopping them from winning the West? Probably the main thing is injuries. Like I said, the team is old, and a lot of guys on this team have dealt with injuries in the past. So, if they're able to stay healthy, I don't think there's much, or there's obviously going to be competition. It's the Western Conference that's really good, but I think that if, with barring injuries, this Lakers team has geared up well enough that I think they're now the favorites to win the Western Conference, not only because they picked up Westbrook, but because they picked up so many good role players around those guys. Easily the winners of, in my mind, of free agency today, alongside the Chicago Bulls. Those are the two teams that I think did the best. Outside of those guys, the Miami Heat bringing in Markieff Morris on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. Sure, why not? Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye going to the Milwaukee Bucks, some solid pickups. Next, we had Taj Gibson returning to the New York Knicks. Another solid pickup. Might as well bring the guy back. Bringing back pretty much the whole band between Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, and adding Evan Fournier into the mix. 1-year deal for Robin Lopez to the Orlando Magic, which I guess. The Sixers had an interesting day. Obviously, signed Korkmaz yesterday. Ended up waiving George Hill. He just didn't seem to fit in their roster last season. And then probably the biggest meme move of the day was signing Andre Drummond to a 1-year deal. And my thought on the Andre Drummond deal is that it's fine. A lot of people are giving it crap, and I know Drummond's not that good. But for a backup center role behind Joel Embiid, he's one of the better options on the market that was out there. Andre Drummond, all he has to do is come in, buy into his role for like 12, 15 minutes a game at most. Because Joel Embiid can give you 35, 36 minutes a game if he's healthy. If he stays healthy, all Drummond has to do is be a bench center. He doesn't have to do very much. He doesn't have to do as much as he's done in the rest of his career between Detroit, Cleveland, and for some reason I was blanking on that team, and Los Angeles. I think it's going to end up being a decent signing. And worst case, you signed him for the minimum. If he sucks, you just stop playing him. So I don't think there's really any way the Sixers lose this signing. It's just whatever. And best case, you get a guy that's a former All-Star. I know he's not very good, but maybe he buys into his role after becoming a bench center. He's like, I want to prove my worth, and maybe you get a better version of Drummond. Abdul Nader, Thunder legend, getting paid 2-year, $4.2 million to go back to the Phoenix Suns. Good move for them. The Portland Trailblazers, Tony Snell. So the help that Tony Snell's a good player, don't get me wrong. Shout out my guy Drake Snell season on Twitter. But the help that the Trailblazers have gotten Damian Lillard is Cody Zeller, bringing back Norman Powell, and Tony Snell. And Ben McLemore, I believe they also got today, which isn't showing up on this list for some reason. So that's the new team. We'll see what Dame says. Next, San Antonio Spurs, like I said, trading DeMar DeRozan in a sign-and-trade deal. Makes sense. It was going to happen. The Utah Jazz bringing in Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gay. Two solid pieces to add to their team. Solid backup center in Hassan Whiteside, who comes in after they traded Derek Favors to the Thunder in a salary dump deal. And Rudy Gay, 2 years, $12 million to come in and be a bench scorer. So that was day 2 of free agency. The biggest names left on the board. John Collins, Lauri Markkanen are two of the biggest names. Outside of restricted free agency, not a ton of guys other than like a Dennis Schroeder, who knows where he's going to go at this point, because the only team left with cap space is the Thunder. And that's already been done before, and I don't see any reason why we would offer him a deal unless it was in a sign and trade of some sort and we get an asset alongside of him. And even then, I mean, I guess if the Lakers want Kemba Walker, sure, but it doesn't make sense for us. Dennis Schroeder should have taken that extension that was offered to him in the past. But, hindsight is 2020, and ultimately Dennis Schroeder's not going to get the money he asked for. If I was him at this point, I'd just go back to the Lakers maybe to be your sixth man, prove I'm still valuable to even if it is in a six-man role, and hopefully go back and get the bag, because at this point, I don't see much of a role for him on most teams, unless maybe he ends up in like the Pelicans organization and Devontae Graham plays backup. So that is your free agency briefing for day 2. Let me know what you thought of the moves. What was your favorite move of the day? Do you agree with me that the Lakers and the Bulls won this day of free agency? Why or why not? I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys later for more free agency news. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below, like I said, your favorite move. I will see you guys later. A real one, say it back.